What's going on YouTube? It's been a while since I've made a guide or any videos. I've been working a lot and had some other things going on, so I wanted to go ahead and make a guide for my rapid fire rogue. It's been able to do everything in the game. We've beaten all the Ubers, level 100 pits. It's just a lot of fun. It's a ton of damage, and yeah, I wanted to share it with you guys, and maybe if you guys get some ideas or make your own versions. There are some other versions out there that are similar, and I've kind of made some changes to that I thought helped me, some survivability ones and stuff like that. So you saw the clips at the beginning, of all the Ubers and the pits and all that kind of stuff. As far as the pits go, I typically to farm about 85s or so. That's kind of my happy place where we can get through it real quickly. We don't take any deaths or anything like that, but it is able to go up to 100. I haven't surpassed 100 yet. I'm sure we could, but it starts getting a little bit. We still need a little bit better gear, optimize some of our stuff a little bit. But it is capable of doing all of that. And it's not a speed farmer. It's, for an 85, it's about, 4.5 minutes or so. For a level 100, it's about 6 minutes to complete it. So, again, there are faster builds, but as far as the Ubers go, it absolutely annihilates them. One stagger and they're dead. It does obscene amounts of damage, and it's a lot of fun. I really like rapid fire. It's in a pretty good place right now. So let's just get right into it. We'll start with the gear, and I have my end game gear here, and then I also have the gear I'm going to show you that I use to level and get my end game gear and start beating the Ubers. As you can see, we have the Harlequin crest, Shakos, and we crafted this. We didn't drop it, so we earned our shards through Helltide and all that kind of stuff, and then we dropped an Uber unique at some point, and then we vendored it so that we could get our last shard. This is what I wanted, so this is how we ended up with this. The helmet I was using was something that looked like this. It was just life, armor, cooldown reduction, dodge, and chance to freeze. And then for the aspect, we used you have increased dodge chance, and successful dodges restore 20% of your max life. We do try to stack dodges. I personally think dodge is the best defensive capability in the game. You don't need mitigation if you don't get hit. So we stack a pretty good amount of dodge. As we start using Shakos and stuff, we lose a little bit of dodge, but we gain a lot of damage and stuff like that out of it. So this is what we were using prior to Shakos. As far as body armor goes, we just have a bunch of resists, +3 to Dark Shroud. That helps us with some more mitigation. Chance to freeze, armor, pretty standard stuff. Dark Shroud and resistances are the big one here. We're a little overcapped on armor, but it's hard to, hit exactly what you need, right at 9230. So, we're a little overcapped, but that's just the way it is. As you start to level up items and stuff like that, you'll probably overcap a little bit. As far as aspect, basic skills grant damage reduction. Gloves, the big one here is, the rapid fire, +5 to rapid fire. And then, lucky hit chance is nice as well. And then life, chance to freeze, crit strike damage. And then after attacking with a basic skill, your next core skill damage is increased for aspect. As far as our pants, again, dodge chance, life, dex, chance to freeze, and then again plus 8% chance to increase dodge, and then you fortify for 10% of your life. So this fills up pretty quick. You're usually fully fortified after about 30 seconds or so of running a dungeon or a map or whatever. And then as boots, we just want movement speed. That's dodge chance, life, chance to freeze, and then enemies hit by your grenade skills have an equal chance, etc. We don't necessarily care about the first line with the grenade. We don't use any grenades, but the bottom line is you deal 25% times increased critical damage to frozen or stunned enemies. We freeze a lot of things. We stagger bosses, so when that happens, that 25% times increased crit is just a massive damage increase. As far as our main weapon, we use a crossbow, dex, life, crit strike damage, and then chance for rapid fire to cast twice, and then again with the crit damage. So this is pretty standard, nothing crazy here. You just want to try to get as much crit damage as you possibly can, and then the chance for rapid fire. So pretty simple stuff. And then skills deal up to 40% increased damage based on primary resource, and because we use combo points, you're oftentimes at full resource, so that damage is up. That 40% is up most of the time. Weapons, they're both similar. We do have a dagger just because this is, everything is essentially max rolled on this except for the deck. So, I haven't found but ideally this is a sword as opposed to a dagger so that we get that increased crit. But both of these are essentially the same thing: dex, life, crit, rapid fire, crit. So, again, nothing crazy here, pretty simple stuff. And as you can see, we're doing all this stuff and things aren't even fully leveled. The only thing we have leveled is our amulet, which is probably our best item outside of Shaco's. Ring, we use Scoundrel's Kiss. You can get these pretty early just by farming up the non-Uber bosses. I believe it's Lord Zur is the one who drops this. So, we dropped one pretty early when we beat him. But, obviously it's sacred and, we want our big stat that we want is the aspect that, a high exploding arrows deal, X amount of damage. Ideally it's 25. And then the +2 to rapid fire. On our current one, we have +3 to rapid fire, but we're only at 21% times increased damage. So this eventually we will replace. That's why I haven't fully leveled it yet. I'd like to get a max rolled one if possible. So we've been farming up for that. We haven't dropped it yet. And then our other ring is just attack speed, dex, crit strike damage, cold imbue, and then again crit strike damage. And our amulet, which is pretty nasty now. This took a while to find and to craft and all that kind of stuff, but it's life, +3 to fidget finesse, +5 to weapon mastery, movement speed, and cold imbue. Then we have critical strikes with marksman skills, have a 90% chance to grant a free dark shroud. We have that, so then we don't have to waste a slot in our actual abilities, and we get it when we crit. So, and then as far as this, critical strikes with core skills increase attack speed 25%. Sorry, I didn't go over the aspects. Weapons, distance enemy, chance to be stunned. Again, that's fine, but 30% increased damage to stunned or knocked down enemies. So this is really big for bosses when we stagger them. And then our other one is just basic skills, 30% increased attack speed. Our old amulet we were using before we dropped this one was just we had weapon mastery, attack speed, movement speed, crit strike chance. I didn't hit what I wanted to on there, so that was kind of a missed opportunity. And then cold imbue. And that's it for the gear. So it's getting up there now. But the gear that I used to attain these items wasn't super crazy and very attainable, pretty standard stuff. So I just wanted to show you guys, you don't have to have this stuff to make it work. We beat Uber Lilith and stuff with this helmet, so we didn't even have this one yet. Now we shred her down, and it's a pretty easy fight now. So, but this is the one that we beat the Ubers with before we had this. So now the Ubers are pretty much free, but this was the helmet we were using prior to that. Specializations, we're using combo points for our skill tree. We use puncture. Obviously, Shaco's now gives us +4, but we only have 1 point allotted into this. Our rapid fire is up to 17 with Shaco's and our rings and, and our gloves and all that kind of stuff. So we're getting a ton of damage out of rapid fire. And then we take 30% increased damage after you evade. We evade a lot. So, that's how it goes. Critically strike movement speed, damage reduction, critical strikes against close enemies have a chance to heal you. Again, this one, you might be able to move this somewhere else, but, when you start getting into the high pits and stuff, any form of heal or life regen or anything like that is super helpful, even though, we typically do try to stay at range. Again, we only have 1 point in Shadow Step and Dash, but Shaco's gives us an additional 4. Shaco's is insanely powerful. I'm sure everybody's trying to get it if they don't have it already. Weapon mastery, again, we have +5 on our amulet, so that's giving us 40% increased critical strike damage with crossbows. So that's an insane damage increase. As far as caltrops, we take this. A big one here is honestly the middle one, 10% increased damage while they're in there for 5 seconds. Some of the Ubers, they don't move a whole. Duriel moves a lot, but some of the other ones typically don't move as much, so it's pretty easy to keep them inside your caltrops and get that 45% times damage increase. And then, obviously just chill, cold, all that. We do a lot of extra damage to chilled enemies. With our Dark Shroud Shakos, our Dark Shroud's up to a 12. We use the movement speed. If crit chance is really low, you can use this, but the movement speed, especially for fights like Uber Lilith and stuff where you're running away from the little blue balls and all that kind of stuff, is super helpful to have that movement speed. And to gain damage, elsewhere, sometimes you do lose a little, like we lost some movement speed on our amulet when we moved to our new one. And then obviously we're taking exploit, malice, agile. Again, this just helps with dodge. Like I said earlier, dodge I think is the best defensive capability in the game. So try to get as much as you can of it in there. Again, like I said, you don't need to mitigate anything if you're just straight up not getting hit. One of the ones that I do take, poison is so powerful. This rugged is very helpful. So I recommend taking this, especially if you're I mean, I've used it throughout the whole leveling process, just because, again, even if you have max poison resistance and stuff, poison is just so powerful that it gets a little out of control. And then we're using cold imbuement. We only have 1 point allotted. Again, Shake goes boosting us up, and then we go down to cold skills deal 20% times damage to crowd controlled enemies, double against frozen. So when bosses are staggered, that incorporates all of the different crowd control things. So any benefits you have to crowd control will affect a downed boss. And then Frigid Finesse, we have all 3, and then we have another 3 from our amulet, so we're getting an insane amount. So our amulet is giving us a bonkers amount. We get 5 here, and then an extra 3 here. So the amulet is a lot of damage. We take nothing in the ultimate area, and then lastly, we use precision. And we have so much crit strike damage that when, it all stacks up, you're getting an insane, damage increase out of the precision keystone. So that's that. Paragon, I've tried quite a few things here. Obviously, we start at the basic one. We're just into marksman damage. You get some damage here, but a big part of this one too is while wielding a ranged weapon, you just take, 10% damage reduction, which is really nice. Then we move up. Our second board that we take is exploit weakness. Just we have such a good ability to make enemies vulnerable that this is a nice one to take. Then we have non-fizz in here. Again, good damage, but a lot of the the bonuses on the glyphs are really powerful on some of them. So this one, non-fizz damage increases all non-fizz an enemy takes up to 10% for 15 seconds. So you get that 10% pretty fast and it holds up. So that's pretty nice. I think second we go here. So this we're mainly just using for the glyph socket and then to connect us to our last one. This we took much later, so we'll come back to that. But here we have crit strike damage, and this board is the Leirana's Instinct. We obviously don't use inner sight, but that's why we're taking this. We get a little bit of resistance and then damage after you dodge, so we have a lot of dodge. But you get 49 int here, so we get a ton of crit strike damage. And then after that we move up to cheap shot. And in cheap shot, we have crowd control. Again, this is pretty minimal. We're just using this. We get the damage and then increased damage to slowed or chilled, and then damage to frozen enemies. So the bonus is massive there. We don't even take damage reduction from slow or anything like that. So we just want the glyph socket here, and then damage to crowd control, damage to crowd controlled. We do take cheap shot. Then next we come over, and this board is no witnesses. We don't use an ultimate, so we obviously don't need that. Again, vulnerable damage, exploit. This is a good one to have. And in all honesty, I used this in the first slot for quite a while. Just that was the first glyph that I leveled and that I used, just for the ability to make everything vulnerable more often. And then eventually I moved it to one that I don't get quite as much vulnerable damage, but again, the bonus is kind of what I'm interested in here. The damage itself is nice, but again, we don't even come up and take the damage in the int and all that. We just take what we need to get our bonus, and then we move along. Next, we then come down to, we break down into Cunning Stratagem. And again, combo points increase 33%. So this just doesn't increase damage, increases projectiles. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's from my understanding. Because it's a non-damage, so what you get out of that is, I believe it's 9 projectiles, so a 33% increase. So you're shooting about 12 projectiles with this up, and then we've just had we take this because it's on the way, not necessarily, but it's 1 point. We pass this, so there's no reason not to take it. And then lastly, our last board we take is Eldritch Bounty, and this just, again, increased resistances to cold and increased damage with imbuement. We take the imbued and the non-fizz. We're not going to hit 7/10 strength, so we're not going to get that bonus. But still, we pass by it, and it's only an extra 2 points. So that's that. That's the Paragon board. We use a lot of boards here, a lot of glyphs, stuff like that. The build feels great. It could be optimized a little bit. If you guys have anything that you guys have done, please let me know. You know, anything I could do to update this. I might eventually try to get a flurry going. That's what I wanted to do, but you know, I couldn't really get it going. And you know, we got it into the, you know, 50, 60 pits, but I couldn't really surpass that. But I've seen now a poison one came out recently that looks pretty fun, so I might spec into that and give it a go and see how it feels. But that's it, guys. So again, I hope this was helpful. You know, if you want to see, I'll show you the stats real quick. So we're pretty close to max. 69.6 is close enough. The cold is a little bit low, but again, because we use a cold imbuement with our with this, you know, you get max resistances to cold and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, we get a little bit of boost out of that. So that's fine. You know, our crit strike chance is 20%, but then, you know, the way rapid fire works is each arrow has increased crit strike chance. So it crits most of the time. Crit strike damage is over 2k. Vuln, you know, again, we're not super worried about it. Dodge is at 30%. That does not include the 8% here. So if we take, oh yes, it does. Okay, so I thought that it didn't. So we're at oh well, no, it doesn't. So that's 10% dodge. So if we lose 10%, yeah, we're at 19. So the aspect is not included in that. So you do have an extra 8%. And again, if you're using this instead of Shakos, you have an extra 16%. So you're sitting at, you know, 46, 47% chance to dodge, which is crazy. So, you know, you're constantly healing and gaining your fortify, and you're not getting hit, you know. So, that's that, guys. You know, please like, subscribe, do all that kind of stuff. If this was helpful, let me know if you guys are doing anything different, or if there's a way that I can improve my damage here, or, you know, anything like that. Survivability is fantastic. I do want to increase the damage, and I think we'll get some more damage as we start to, you know, masterwork the rest of our items. Like I said, this only has the first 4 in it. I've been waiting to replace both of these, but they just haven't popped up. Same here. I'd like a better one, but, you know, it is good, so we might just finish it out and masterwork it. We'll see what happens. But that's it. Again, like, subscribe, do all that kind of stuff. I appreciate you guys hanging out, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.